Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Combat Show. It is 6 p.m. It is Thursday. We are ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. This weekend we've got a really good show. We got a really good event for you this week in MMA, where UFC is going straight to Paris. We're going to see a great event there. We're also going to talk about a few heavyweight fights. Obviously, we have the return of Andy Ruiz this weekend. We also have rumors between Jake Paul. We have Tyson Fury, and we're going to talk about the KSI event that just happened recently. So, how are y'all doing, lads?
All good.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Okay, that's good. So we're going to start off with MMA, obviously, because it's the small little part there. We'll move into the boxing. So, obviously, UFC Paris is happening this weekend. Ciryl Gane versus Tuivasa. Obviously, we'll start with Velv because maybe Matt, you're not the biggest fan of MMA, but
No.
we'll start with Velv on this one. How big is this fight, especially for the heavyweight division?
Yeah, I think it's a massive fight. You see the two fighters. Obviously, you got Tuivasa against Gane. I think it's going to be a good fight. Obviously, Gane last fight didn't get the victory he wanted, whilst Tuivasa did. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very good fight between those two big heavyweights. And yeah, it's looking to be a very good event, and the cards as well, the co-event as well, looking very good as well. So yeah, you've got good fights in the next.
We'll definitely go on to that. Yeah. So Matt, you obviously you don't have that much knowledge on MMA, but you surely know the two heavyweights fighting this weekend, surely.
Andrew Gane, yeah, I think he'll win by decision.
Okay, yeah, we'll start off with predictions already. What do you think? What do you think, Velv? How do you think this fight will go out?
So which one? The main event?
The main event. We'll start with the main event, and then we'll move right on in.
I think it's going to be close, but I think Tuivasa will just get the win because obviously I think last fight he fought Derek Lewis, so he got the knockdown. So yeah, I feel like him having more of a weight advantage, I feel like it's going to be difficult for Gane to take him down. So I feel Tuivasa will get the win in this one, but it'll be close.
Yeah, you do mention two good points. Obviously, you're both conflicting when it comes to the results of this fight. I don't know. I'm a bit on the edge right now. I will probably make my predictions later on, but I think when you look at it, Tuivasa, he has that power to finish you. But you look at Gane, he has the movement to kind of get out of the way in a sense. It's kind of like a fight like Derek Lewis versus Ciryl Gane, where Gane just dominated him. So it could go that way. But like I said, Tuivasa has improved massively from his first fight in the UFC. Like I said, he's on a 5-fight knockout win streak, which is very, very crucial. Yeah, it's going to be a very good fight. I can't wait for it. I think it's a great main event. But it also will set up a tough little spot for the heavyweight division, as Francis Ngannou is still recovering from his knee surgery. Do you think, right? We'll put this back to Velv. Do you think, right, with obviously John Jones rumored to come back up to the heavyweight division, do you think he will fight at the end of the year? And if so, do you see him fighting someone like Stipe, or do you see him with Ngannou?
I mean, it depends really. Like, here's the thing with him. It all depends about the results. Because say if they lose, innit, they might have to fight. Because it's actually difficult. It's basically like if you compare it to boxing. Like, say if like AJ won, he would have the chance to fight Fury, but he didn't. So I think it's a similar situation with this. If he loses, then I don't see the opportunity. If he does,
With who?
then maybe. Wait, so who was the fighters again? Oh, I'm actually confused right now.
Sorry, I was talking about John Jones and how he was getting back into the heavyweight division, because obviously he's gained weight. He's done with 205. He's going up to 225, possibly even heavier, let's be real. But like I said, with his addition, do you see him fighting Francis Ngannou at the end of the year for the title, or do you see him fighting someone like Stipe Miocic?
I think start with Steve. So because obviously he's got into the heavyweight, so you might as well fight someone who is pretty much a good opponent for you. Because I think if he fought Francis Ngannou the way he is right now, then I think Francis Ngannou will win.
Okay, interesting. Okay. What about you, Matt? Do you think John Jones, if he does come back one day, because I do think it will happen eventually, do you think he goes straight for the title, or do you think he needs that one warm-up fight?
Should have a warm-up fight. Nobody should take that much time out and go straight for a title ever. They haven't earned it. So.
I mean, he is the GOAT.
Back.
He is the
Doesn't
GOAT.
matter. Doesn't matter. He's been 2 years old. Same as Conor
I guess.
McGregor. If he comes back, he shouldn't get a title shot straight away either, because there's people been fighting. While he's been taking time off.
It's two different scenarios with Conor and John. You know, when you put Conor in a fight card, instant 2-minute buy, simple as that. No matter who he's against, probably you put him against you, let's say, for whatever, and you'll get a lovely pay-per-view buy. So, but like I said, so you do think that obviously Stipe and John Jones should happen, other than Francis Ngannou versus. But if let's say Dana was like, look, you're going to have one last fight in your contract to Ngannou. You're going to fight John Jones. You're going to fight the GOAT. Do you see John Jones in any shape or form beating Francis Ngannou when he comes, if he does come back later on this year at UFC 282? If it does happen, of course.
You start now.
Oh yeah, we'll start with you. Sorry, Matt. Sorry about that. We'll start with
you. I think John Jones would beat him, yeah. By decision.
Okay. And what do you think, Velv? I think you kind of voiced your opinion actually on this one.
I think Ngannou's got this, you know. I feel like the step up, I feel like in getting more heavyweight, I think with Ngannou, he's been doing it for longer than him. So I feel like Ngannou will take the win. But if John Jones wins, then I won't be surprised. But it's going to, same with the other fights, it's going to be a close fight.
How I would see that fight, and I do genuinely think this is an easier fight to predict compared to Gane and Tuivasa, because the reason I would say this is because John Jones, no matter who he goes into, he always has a game plan to beat them. He always does. No matter who he's faced, Daniel Cormier, Shogun Rua, you know, anyone, he's always come in with a game plan and it's always worked. Now, let's see if that works against Ngannou, because like I said, Ngannou does have a powerful punch. It is the hardest punch in the UFC, of course. But we'll wait and see how that goes. The middleweight division, though, has a good fight. This co-main event, we are seeing Marvin Vettori taking on Robert Whittaker. Vel, we'll start with you because Matt is unfortunately not here with us. But how do you see this fight? Because when you look at this fight, both men have lost to Adesanya twice. I would argue that Robert Whittaker won the second fight, but we won't get onto that. Where do both these men go if they do win or lose this fight? Because it is a tough decision and a tough division as well for both men, because like I said, they both have 2 L's against the current champion, Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, I think when it comes to both of them, both you can see kind of similar each way. Mm-hmm. So they've got similar reach to each other, similar weight. So yeah, it's too hard to tell, but if I'm going to predict it right now, I actually don't know. I actually don't know, to be honest. Like, because both have ups and both have downs, and both have the same like weakness and strengths. But it's about who executes on the night the most. So it's whoever wants it more, really. But I couldn't even tell you a prediction right now because I think it'd be that close.
Okay. What about you, Matt? Robert Whittaker, Marvin Vettori.
Like Whittaker, TKO.
TKO. Okay, that's a good one. And do you think Whittaker, if he does win, and let's say we'll also go on to the Adesanya fight because that does affect the division as well, does that affect his chance with having a third fight potentially against, the great Israel Adesanya?
Does what affect his chances? Right?
So, like I said, we've both said that they both lost twice to Adesanya. Do you think if Robert Whittaker wins this fight and Israel Adesanya beats, let's say your man, I can't even think of his name. Oh no! Oh my god! His next fight. Let's just say his next fight. I'll try to remember the name. Does that mean? Do you think Robert Whittaker will get a third shot at the middleweight gold? Pereira, that's him. Alex Pereira.
Nobody else can really step up to Israel at the minute, so he might as well have a third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, obviously
So, yeah,
we'll have
yeah.
to. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. But we'll talk about that Israel Adesanya fight. Obviously, he's fighting at UFC 281. It's gonna be. I do think it's gonna be a great fight. What do you think of it, Velv? Do you see Israel Adesanya losing? Because, like I said, he is 2-0. He's lost 2 fights to this man, and arguably we could see a third if he loses against him at UFC 281. How do you see that fight going?
But who against Alex Pereira?
Yes, against Alex Pereira.
I think Adesanya gets this one. I feel like he'll get Pereira. If it comes to the fight between Whittaker, I feel like it's all about what we see against Pereira. Because if he struggles against Pereira, then you might see an opportunity for him to take advantage. But if he dominates him, humiliates him, then I feel it'll be the same result as always.
Okay. And for Matt, like I said, well, that's the same enough question. How do you see this, to Israel Adesanya fight? Because he does have the mental warfare against him. He has lost to Alex Pereira twice. Do you think that will have an effect on Israel, or do you think that Israel will just be cool, calm, and collected and be the boring fighter he's always meant to be?
He lost him in kickboxing. He didn't lose to him in MMA. So, like,
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Well, they don't go to the ground to them. So technically, this will be a kickboxing fight, but in MMA. Technically, what do you say?
Kickboxing with takedowns. That's what it basically is.
Yeah, but neither fighter does takedowns. So anyway, sorry, Matt. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think Israel will win by decision. It'll be a boring fight, but win by decision. I don't think it'll be impacted by the fact he's lost him twice.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think personally, for me, as someone who just absolutely despises how Israel Adesanya fights, I would love to see Alex Pereira win. Oh, Velv's gone. I think his time is done in this division. I think that his style is too boring. People will catch on and know what his game plan is. He always says he brings a good game, but he doesn't. So yeah, hopefully that does happen. But like I said, those are 2 fights that we've talked about. MMA. So like I said, UFC Paris. Make sure you watch it this weekend, lads. It's going to be a good event. We're going to look at some comments here. Big of Phil one. Pineda with possibly the worst performance from a professional boxer I've ever seen. I would beat him. Probably, yeah. Since when did Wolf get knighted? Wait, what? I don't know. I got knighted from Sri Lanka. What the hell? I'm confused. You can comment on those. Comment on those, will you, Matt?
It's just that I'm too waffling to each other. I can you if you want, like. Oh fuck! I don't. Nah, I'm not taking to do with our comment.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to KSI. Obviously, his event. Did you watch the event, Matt, and give us your opinions on it?
I rewatched it. Yeah. I think KSI's fights were the 2 worst fights of the night. Honestly, KSI had the easiest fights on that show for anyone.
Okay.
Anyone on that card could have beat KSI's opponents that night. That hasn't proven anything, and it hasn't given him any leverage for Jake Paul at all.
Okay. Fair enough. What did you think of the Deji fight? I think the community definitely were happy. Yeah, I agree. I think. Yeah. Go on. Yeah, keep going.
And he did actually look really good. He's getting behind his jab. He was chasing Fizzy down. He was actually throwing for once. And he didn't get tired. So that's the best we've seen Deji ever, obviously, since he's actually finally won. But yeah, really good for him. He's one of the best boxers on the card, I thought.
I do agree with that. What was your knockout of the night? Because there was a good few knockouts, to be fair. Which one? Who would you say would definitely take your one for that?
Definitely between Salt Papi and Slim.
Ooh, okay.
Slim one was better because he had a harder opponent, so I'd give it Slim.
That's fair enough. Velv, did you watch the KSI event, and what were your opinions on it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very good event. I liked it. Maybe not the KSI fights. Probably for banter-wise, meme-wise, it was hilarious. Swarms. doing ballerinas on the ring is hilarious. But yeah, I think those,
No.
I think those are the two fights that.
Yeah, no, we get what you mean. We get what you mean. We'll move on to Matt, though. We'll ask this question to you, Matt. Was this the best YouTube event there has ever been, or do you think there's one that has been better?
I think the KSI versus Logan Paul 1 event was better.
Okay. That's some good fights.
KSI, Jake Paul,
Deadly, Face Sensei was on that as well.
Yeah, Overflow.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name from TGI?
Yeah.
Jay Swingler.
Jay Swingler, yeah.
Yeah. And then had no move doing Fortnite dances in the middle of the That
looks like is coming up as well.
I legit forgot about that Fed, to be fair. I was just rolling back through all the different shows and I'm on all the pay-per-views and I'm just like, what? Yeah, this one was the best one. And then now you mentioned that one, I'm just like, maybe it wasn't. But
maybe this one could be considered better boxing quality. But in terms of
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. That's fair enough. Well, I can get that. We can go by that. But where does KSI go from this point? Obviously, he probably wants to keep going through boxing. He did call out some people. I mean, some of them were just stupid, like Andrew Tate. Like, you're not going to fight Andrew Tate, lad. No offense. He's going to kill him. But anyway, where do you see KSI going, Matt? Where do you think?
He mentioned Tommy Fury. He's not going to fight Tommy Fury. There's no chance he's getting Tommy Fury. Oh, the other be Slim. I heard Salt Papi. That's possible. Slim or Salt Papi, I think. No, honestly,
Slim is too underrated. I'm sorry. I'll be real. His fight against Simple for me was actually one of the worst fights. Like not even me hating. In terms of the boxing element, it was actually shocking. It's so open, so easily. Face Temple could have easily beat Slim, and Slim could easily beat Temple. That's how bad they were. For me, he needs to fight Tommy, or if whoever wins between, if Austin beats Gibb, then maybe Austin McGroom.
He's not going to fight Tommy Fury.
Yeah, and the thing with Slim is he will never be able to fight Slim because they're not in the same weight class. You look at Slim; he's a skinny little boy.
How much did he weigh? 172 pounds he weighed.
Yeah, Slim's heavier.
Is he? He wouldn't look. He wouldn't. Jesus.
No, I'm pretty sure it was less in KSI because KSI was 179.9 pounds. I remember it. But
he was. Yeah.
I think Slim was less.
No, Slim was heavier because KSI said he was going to come up and try and get that belt off Temper because he was sitting Temper in the way.
All right, well, that'll be an interesting fight. I thought he was a lot skinnier, and I thought there was a.
He looks it.
But I mean, he does look like it. Yeah, but
he's just a very long man, so that's why.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll talk about that Gibb fight since that was actually mentioned. Obviously, they had the face-to-face. It got pretty heated. Funnily enough, we'll start with Velvet Schwan. When it comes to this fight, who do you see winning? Because I think there's only one winner in this fight, really. When you really look at the two fighters, their two performances, who really looks like looks like the proper boxer compared to the promoter in a sense. What do you think about it?
With the face-off,
no, just in general.
In general,
yeah.
Obviously, we know what happened before the situation. Oh, sorry, I'm just telling my sister.
No, don't worry, lads. It's all right. All right, we'll go to Matt for this one.
So before the incidents, the fight getting cancelled, for me, I think they said Gibb had a head injury, but Gibb said he was fine. So I think it was Austin's way to get away from delay the fight. But here's the thing, I think Gibb is already in his head. You see after what happened, Gibb was obviously he almost fell off during the face-off, which was pretty funny. And yeah, I think Austin McGroom was impressed, and then he tried to start fight with Gibb. So I think Gibb mentally is already in his head. And I'm watching some training footage of Austin, doing pads. Anyone could look good in pads, but he missed a punch during the pad. I'm like, like, this is not because let's be real. Bryce Hall in the first fight, it's not a good like test fight for McBroom because he's pretty much one-sided. Whereas Gibb, he fought. Who was his first fight? I forgot his first fight. But I know his second fight was Jay Swindler.
PlayStation or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that FIFA guy. Yeah, no, not shy, but Jay Swindler. He's a good fighter. Next, I think it was Jake Paul. Obviously, he lost that, but I think that Gibb went against what like Vidal and Leon said in that fight. So it wasn't him. Then he fought Taylor Holdler. Absolutely smoked him. Like absolutely smoked him, and I feel like he's going to do the same with Austin. Because here's the thing: when I first saw Austin, I thought Austin was a much bigger guy than Gibb. But when you saw the commotion, they're actually like the same height. It was similar with Deji and Fuzi. Because people thought Fuzi was massive, but when they had the face off, they looked like similar heights. So yeah, I think Gibbs got this. I think he's got too much stamina. The only thing he needs to avoid is the jabs. Don't do the stupid going low and trying to hit the body shots. Just stand your ground, hit him, and I feel like you'd be good.
Fair enough. What do you think about it, Matt?
If the fight doesn't go a distance, Gibb. If it goes a distance, I think Austin McBroom's a better natural boxer than him. So I think I forgot his name, Austin McBroom, and might box him for 6 rounds or whatever it is, and then get the win on points. But I do think Gibb has too much pressure for him as well. So I do expect him to win, but if it does go a distance, I don't think there's a chance that Gibb wins.
Do you think we'll see like another King Kenny moment where essentially the wrong person gets deemed as the winner? Do you think?
I've got an interesting. I don't think King Kenny should have won that. I thought. I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was definitely
We'll go back to that.
with that fight. Yeah, it was much more closer between Kenny and Sensei than it was Kenny versus Temper.
Oh yeah.
When that fight, Temper was clear the winner. Like you could easily if you haven't even watched boxing, you will know that. But this fight was much more closer than people make it out to be. Like I don't think it was rigged in any sort of way.
He's the worst commentator in the world. He makes everybody think that it was rigged or whatever because he Sensei clearly won that. He didn't clearly win that. The standing 8's not a 10-8 round because it's the judge's discretion whether they count that as a 10-8 round or not. And it was the standing 8 was stupid as well. It was in the first 20 seconds. There was no way that should have been a standing 8. So, and I think Kenny won the rest of that round. Sensei won 2. It could have been a draw, but I do think Kenny won, in my opinion.
That's fair enough. We're all entitled to our own opinions, of course. But yeah, like I said, I thought FaZe Sensei won. I know, obviously, but when you look at him, he hasn't fought in a long time. So I think coming back and fighting like that is pretty impressive on his behalf. But
yeah, they're both one of the 2 of the best YouTube boxers right there, like hands down.
Exactly. And look, it was a great
In
fight.
terms of technical, that was like in terms of like 2 technical boxers, that was a good fight. Like in terms of if like any proper boxing fans liked it, like even that would have been like their fight of the night.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Some heart. You know what I mean. But anyway, we'll move on to Jake Paul. Of course, he's part of this YouTube boxing scene, even though he doesn't want to admit it. Obviously, he likes to stir up drama and all that crap. He's finally fighting not a boxer, of course, a former UFC champion in Anderson Silva. Now, obviously, Anderson Silva has been boxing recently. He won against Chavez, wasn't it, or something like that? I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he won. He
Mexican world champion.
Yes, exactly. And pretty much, it's a good fight. I do think it's a good fight. How do you see this going, Matt? We'll start with you first.
Jake Paul decision.
Okay, what about you, Velv? Short and simple from that, Jesus.
I think Jake. Hey, it pains me to say it, but Jake, because Anderson has been fighting for longer. I think Jake recently. Actually, when was Jake's last fight?
Last year.
Yeah, it was last year. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Jake.
Christmas time.
I think Jake edges it maybe on points. I don't see any knockdowns or anything because Anderson's like he's on mad. It's not going to be an easy fight like people think. for me, Anderson's a better opponent, way better opponent than Pineda and Swarm. So, like
Obviously,
KSI, like I'm a KSI fan, but like people need to be real here. Because like even Matt could fought KSI and probably do a better job. And I see Matt's boxing. I'm sorry, Matt. I see your boxing, but like, yeah. So no one can clown Jake for his opponents. Still, fuck him for being a Liverpool fan because I hate you. I don't know why you're associated with my team.
No need to talk about football, right? We're talking about combat here, right?
I just can't stand the guy, but yeah,
Doesn't matter. Anyway, obviously with this fight, obviously Jake Paul has still not fought a pro boxer yet in his career. Do you still consider him to be? What do you mean he has tried? Okay, we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, let's just say this, right, with Tommy Fury. First off, his first fight was through injury. That's fine. I think that should have been pulled back, and then we could have done it again. Then the second reason. The second reason, well, yeah, exactly. But the second reason was Tommy wasn't allowed to be in the USA, right? That was the problem. So, really, did Tommy really pull out? I don't think so. I think he just never was able to get to that fight. And then when the Hasim Rahman Jr. fight, I don't know whether he hasn't sold enough sales or tickets in Madison Square Garden, or whether that Hasim didn't make weight right. I don't know, but usually, like I said, we don't know, right? We can all speculate. Where does Jake Paul start when it comes to a pro boxer? Do you think? Because like I said, he has to fight one eventually, right? He can't just keep going with this persona saying, he's the best thing in boxing, even though he hasn't fought a single boxer yet. Where do you think he starts, Matt?
Well, I mean, it is a bit disrespectful to say he hasn't fought a professional boxer yet when KSI technically has. And look at the state of that.
So, well, Pineda fights people in wheelchairs, man. That's what he's a pro boxer. He fights people in wheelchairs. That's what he is, Pineda. There's no way this guy's a professional. He's a fraud.
I've seen clips of him as an amateur, and he looked quite good. I think the occasion just got to him. But it is a bit hard to say Jake Paul hasn't fought a pro boxer, but then praising KSI for fighting Pineda. But I think it will be Tommy eventually.
Eventually, yeah. That's that. He'll probably be the backup for Anderson Silva if he pulls out. But yeah, what do you think, Velv? Where does Jake Paul have to go? Where does he have to go to prove people that he can fight a pro boxer and not say that they've pulled out?
Do you know what? If he had fought Hasim Rahman Jr. in the first one, I think he would have earned my respect. But because it didn't happen, because it didn't happen, that's when he got down. And even Hasim offered him to fight in the KSI event. It's an undercard, and Jake Paul still didn't refuse it. So it's either that Jake doesn't want to fight a pro, or it's just for the money. Because I think it is the money. Because if you see his recent interview, what he did in obviously I'm not going to name where he interviewed it because obviously for personal things. He said about KSI didn't offer him enough money, so that's why he's not going to accept the contract. Bro, he's all about the money. And what was the pay-per-view for that fight? £60 or $60, something like that.
Oh yeah. For Jake Paul versus Hasim Rahman Jr. to buy for pay-per-view £60, I think it was, or something like that, or euro, something like that.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous price. No one's going to pay for that. If it was like Hasim versus another pro boxer, then yes, you'll get that money. But you're up against a YouTuber, so it's not going to be that. For me, Anderson's still a very good fight. I feel he'll get some respect, maybe majority from the Jake Paul fans, more of the US fans, but not from the UK fans or KSI fans to be particular. But I feel like if he beats him, if he does it comfortably, he beats up Anderson comfortably, then maybe we'll get more respect. But for me, I don't think he will get it, man.
But you do look at it, right? Because Anderson Silva, right, he's not young. He's obviously in the, the far end of his career. Obviously, like I said, unreal MMA champion in the UFC for a very long time. Had some great fights. Obviously with the great Chael Sonnen, and Vitor Belfort, who also fights Hasim Rahman Jr. ironically. So it's a great way of saying that. So, but like I said, we'll say. So you say Jake Paul win. I'm going to say he'll lose, and I think it could be the best thing for him, because not only are you taking on one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, who is an unreal specialist when it comes to striking. We might see Jake Paul lose this one, maybe potentially, but we'll move on to the next boxing session, because like I said, there's a good few boxing stories coming out. Usyk and Joshua, I think it will definitely more than likely happen. We're looking at an inevitable fight between Usyk and Joshua. Yeah, not Joshua. Sorry, Usyk and Fury. My apologies.
Yeah,
yes. Joshua's already taken a chance and he's lost big time. Anyway, we look upon Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. This will be to unify the belts, something that has not been done for a long time, and arguably could be done by the Gypsy King. We'll talk to you, Velv. How do you see this fight going? And tell us what history will be created. Do you think? Do you think people will acknowledge the fact that Tyson Fury might be the GOAT potentially?
He'll be 100% the greatest of this generation. Like what he does, like what he's done, like he's proven everyone wrong. He's puts on massive performances, knockdowns. Like he is one of the greatest. And Usyk, very underrated. Like he doesn't get enough credit. Like people were saying before, like Joshua fights, like, oh, Joshua's gonna do him over. Like it's not that simple. Like if you've got a good team behind you, you're gonna do well. And Usyk, his team, very good, very, very good. And I feel like this will be one of the greatest fights of this generation. I want to see if it beats like any of the pay-per-views. I don't know what's the top one currently. Does anyone know?
I think it's something. It's definitely Mayweather. Mayweather's definitely pay-per-view buys. I don't think anyone would beat Mayweather with all the respect. I think it's him and I would like to say McGregor, but I don't think it is him and McGregor. So it might be someone else, but
I'll double check actually, because I'm definitely sure it's Mayweather.
Oh, it definitely is Mayweather. Mayweather definitely, when it comes to boxing, he definitely has a big say when it comes to pay-per-views, to be fair. But when it comes to like comparing them, right? Obviously, it's hard to compare two different fighters from two different eras.
Mayweather. That's
Mayweather and who?
Manny
Pacquiao. Oh, lovely. Oh, that was a great fight. Two of the GOATs, obviously, in boxing. But when it comes to it, where does Tyson Fury rank when it comes to the overall GOATs in boxing in general? Do you think he ranks up to the highest with Muhammad Ali? Do you think he's third, fourth? Where would he be on your list, Velvetron?
Oh, that's difficult. I actually don't know. Maybe like actually, I'm gonna go through some in my head.
Okay.
Here's the thing, because boxing's been around for the longest, so we can't tell. But maybe in my generation, top 5. In my generation, top 5.
I wouldn't say your turn. The question was, right? Does he compare to the likes of Muhammad Ali, to your Floyd Money Mayweathers? Like I said, the GOATs that most people would say in boxing. Would you say he's up that level if he does beat Usyk, or do you think that no one will ever catch those men when it comes to that tier?
I think top 10 easily.
Okay.
Top 10. If he beats Usyk, I feel like it will be up there, like top 5. It will be a conversation, but it's got to be one of those, like, it's about preference, really, at the end of the day. It's like, who do you prefer more to it? But I think currently top 10, if he beats Usyk, then it's a debate. It's a conversation. Whereas now, maybe it's not a conversation right now.
Fair enough, yeah. Like I said, if he does win the spell, obviously it's been a long time since we've seen the unified. I don't think he'll fight after that, to be fair. I think he'll give up the belts. But to be fair, that moment will be surreal when he does win. Or if he loses, I think Usyk, if he does win that'll be very interesting. Obviously, it'll be his first loss for Tyson Fury. But like I said, it's definitely one to talk about, because when you look at it, obviously Tyson Fury, he's defeated many fighters, Vladimir Klitschko, He's beaten Deontay Wilder 3 times. He bet him twice, drew once. Obviously, the first fight was a draw. Obviously, when you look back at it, obviously it's a good career. Obviously, he's had his highs, he's had his lows, but he definitely would be coming out as one of the greatest of all time. So that's one thing we could definitely say about Tyson Fury. We're going to move on to Andy Ruiz because he is fighting this weekend.
Answer the question. So, say
Okay,
if Usyk wins this,
Yep.
do you think there'll ever be a rematch, or do you think it's only one match? It's the decider.
I think it really depends on how it goes. I think if Usyk really dominates him, I don't think there'll be a rematch. I think if it's very, very close, I think there definitely will be. And plus, when you look at it, the amount of money those two will make off if they do make a rematch or even a trilogy off that, it will be incredible the amount of money they'll make.
You know what I'll see here? I feel like in the first match, it won't make as much money as like the top 5s. They'll give it a draw, and I think the next one would be like the biggest one. Because nowadays these judges are moving mad. Especially with the Canelo fight without judge.
That is a very good true point, I guess you could say. But we'll also, like I said, when we talk about boxing, obviously, I'll just ask you in general, because like I said, this is just, who is your GOAT of boxing, Velv?
My GOAT?
The greatest of all time.
For me, is Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, okay, fair enough. And if I had to ask you, well, obviously we're going to move back onto MMA again, but if you were to give me your top 5 for all-time MMA, because like I said, we did this last time, not last week, 2 weeks ago. If you were to give me your top 5, how would it go, and who would you say would be part of that list? Maybe if you have any honorable mentions, that's fine. We'll count that as well. But who do you think deserves to be your top 5?
Now, bear in mind, I was like new to MMA like a few years ago, so it's not like one of my strong points, but
okay.
It's not
okay.
like,
Well,
if I say my favorite fighters, like
what we could do is say, from your standpoint, obviously, since I haven't watched it for so long, what we could say is name your top 5 favorite fighters you've watched from the last few years, or however long you've been watching the sport.
For me, Khabib is up there. I like Khabib. Khabib is one of my favorites. I don't know, to be honest.
Take it down.
John Jones is up there as well. John Jones is up there. He's a very good fighter. I'll say that Brazilian. I forgot what's that Brazilian guy's name. Is it Jose Aldo? I think his name.
Oh, Jose Aldo, yeah, Aldo.
Yeah, he's a good fighter as well. Yeah. I couldn't say that.
Are you a fan of Paddy the Baddy Plymouth?
Oh, I'm a fan of him at the moment. Yeah, but he's obviously not up there, of course. Like it'd be stupid of me just to put it up there.
Yeah,
I'll say for the others to BJ Penn and he's good. And I can't think of number 5. The one I like is Matt Hughes. I like Matt Hughes a lot.
Who?
Matt Hughes.
Oh, Matt Hughes, of course, yeah. One of the greatest welterweight champions of all time, arguably. He obviously that's obviously a good list, to be fair. You've definitely seen some more than 2 years worth, of the last 2 years.
I started watching MMA like last year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I've been watching for a very long time. Love the sport. This man obviously doesn't. He prefers boxing, of course. But welcome back, Matt. Good to see you again.
I still prefer boxing, but I respect MMA.
Like, I'll tell you this now, lads, and I've said this to Matt, I've said this to Jamie as well. I prefer MMA to boxing just because of how diverse the sport is, especially, and the fact that it's not a very old sport. It's actually been created for like the last 20 years or something like that. So it's very impressive. So one second.
I think boxing's just harder, personally. And why have I no one left here?
Matt, how about me and you MMA fight?
What did you say, sorry?
Me and you MMA fight for charity.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, so sorry to do this, Matt, but you said that boxing was harder.
Yeah,
In what way?
I think
In
it's
what way?
harder
Define.
getting punched in the face multiple times than it is getting taken down a couple of times.
Okay.
And you
Would-
don't just get, like, if you get knocked down in UFC, it's over. If you get knocked down in boxing, you get a chance to get up. Legs are wobbled. You can still fight on. It's just a tougher sport.
I guess
And
when it comes to harder,
requires more. I think it requires more stamina as well because you can't, like, there's no rest time in boxing. 12
I
minutes.
agree. But I think when it comes to UFC and especially MMA, because obviously, like I said, when we associate MMA, we think of UFC. We don't really think of other companies like one championship, which obviously we might talk about eventually. But obviously, the UFC is the flagship show when it comes to MMA. I think, and I'll say this now, I do believe that MMA is a lot harder. And the reason why I say is because it's a mixture of so many sports built in together that you have to learn at least, let's say, 5 of them, right? That have to be a bit different from each other. So you have to learn boxing, of course. You have to learn possibly kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and something else, right? In order to win fights. Do you know what I mean? I do believe boxing is tough because, like I said, stamina-wise, you'd have to give it to boxing. 12 rounds is a long, long time, to be fair. But I do think when it comes to its safety as well, I do think it's safer to do MMA than it is to do boxing.
Yeah, that's why boxing's harder. Though. That's what I mean. MMA is far
You know how I would explain it? Yeah. I'll say if an MMA fighter transitioned to boxing, it'll be more easier than a boxer transitioning to MMA.
I
we saw-
do not agree with that.
we
It'll
saw
be a lot.
Conor
I
McGregor
think
transition.
it's the exact opposite. Carissa Shields, no, what's her name? Shields, the female boxer. She went over to MMA and lost. It's not as easy going from one to the other, of course, right? But I do think you look at Anderson Silva. There you go. He's already done this in MMA, and he went over to boxing and he's won a few fights. I mean,
He's fighting Jake Paul, RJ.
No. Wait, what did I say?
He won that against Chavez or whatever his name was, the
that guy was
Mexican boxer.
He was old and he's just after like doing drugs.
Well, I mean, Anderson Silva is no young lad. To be fair, he's an oldie.
This guy is just
from boxing to MMA is more easier.
We saw
Say again?
Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, Conor McGregor transitioning to boxing. Tyron Woodley got knocked out by
Conor
YouTubers.
McGregor, I think people need to give some credit to his name. To be fair, that was a great performance. Well,
It wasn't
people
a great
like
performance. It wasn't a good boxing performance. He was awful.
Really? I
Yeah.
thought he was pretty good.
He done well to survive to run 10, to be fair, but he didn't look like a good boxer.
I think stamina-wise, I think people really kind of were impressed. I think because, like I said, obviously, like you said, he's been in with one of the greatest of all times, and obviously, Velv obviously said that Mike Tyson was his favorite, of course. So just we'll see you get angry for that for a second. But yeah, no, like I said, it is a tough question. Obviously, I do think it's tougher, and I do think obviously it is safer. Of course, obviously, a lot of parents would probably prefer putting their child in MMA than boxing, and that's just a general rule of thumb. Obviously, with head injuries as well, they're more common in boxing, of course, compared to MMA, where you probably get injuries all over the body. So it obviously really does depend. But one person we'll actually talk about, and that is Nate Diaz, someone who's been talking a lot of smack about Mr. Jake Paul. Obviously, he fights Khamzat Chimaev, UFC 279. It's like, and this is what I mean by Nate Diaz, right? And we all know Nate Diaz, of course, Matt. Obviously, even though you're not the biggest fan, you know who Nate Diaz is. It's pretty obvious.
I like
Everyone loves Nate Diaz. How can you not love him? He takes on Khamzat Chimaev, which is going to be a really good fight. And I do genuinely think people are going to be shocked when they see this result, because not only is Khamzat getting thrown into the big leagues because like I said, he did fight well against Gilbert Burns, but when you take on someone like Nathan Diaz and you haven't been tested to that level, he will bring you to the deep end and he will probably try and put you down there, to be fair. So so what do you think about Nate Diaz? Do you think he beats Khamzat Chimaev, Matt?
No.
Okay.
I think he loses, gets out of UFC and fights Jake Paul, and loses to Jake Paul in a boxing match.
Fair enough. He's only there for the money, I'd say. So
yeah, you have to respect that.
I do. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there was actually a recent video that came out where USADA showed up at Nate Diaz's place, right, for the Piss in the Cup, what they do, right,
Yeah.
before a fight. And he didn't give enough, so Nate Diaz started recording him, saying this guy won't leave because he didn't give him enough, which I think is absolutely hilarious, man. But when it comes to Nate Diaz, obviously he had that rivalry with Conor. I would love to see the trilogy. I don't know who would win that. I probably, if Nate does win that obviously, puts Conor down less in the GOAT tier rankings, to be fair. But yeah, like I said, do you think we'll ever see that trilogy? Because like I said, both fighters are getting older now, near the end of their contracts. What do you think?
I want to see the trilogy, to be fair. I want to see Conor get. I want to see Conor quite in the worst way possible. I want to see him losing at the end. I hate that man so much. He also thought he could walk into Pakistan and just get a world title match straight away. He had an interview saying that. Absolute piss taking. He's awful.
I know, to be fair, it's funny when Conor shows up because not only does he bring a good fight, and obviously he's an entertainer. Nah, come on.
He hasn't got a good fight in about 3 years. 4 years, 5.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that. But like I said, obviously he's going down as one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, with obviously one of the greatest performances in being against Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205.
Yeah.
The question really is, I want to ask actually about Conor. How do you see him come back as well? Because he's lost to Dustin Poirier twice. I don't think they'll make the third fight again. I don't think he'll fight against Justin Gaethje, which I think that's a lose-lose for me when it comes to Conor.
For
I've heard that Chandler and Poirier are going to take on next. That's what I've heard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I think is that's a decent fight there. Do you know what I think is going to happen?
What?
His next opponent, Charles Oliveira.
Oh,
Charles wants that money fight and the instant title shot, man. I think it will happen. And imagine Conor hits him with that left hand and he goes down, lights out.
no, because Charles has been hit before. He can get hit and he can stay hit. He's fine.
But the thing is, no one hits harder than Conor in that division. We all know.
Don't know, but I think Gaethje hit harder.
I mean, Gaethje tried, but there's one way to find out, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's one way to find out. I think Conor gets his horse whipped by fucking Charles Oliveira.
I mean, to be fair, if Charles could literally just put him to the ground, go on his back, and just like hold on to him for 5 minutes or 25 minutes, to be fair. But he'll still make it entertaining, though. To be fair, but Charles definitely would stay on the feet, though.
If he loses again, that has to be him done. Like with big paper, he can't be the main event anymore if he loses again.
I mean, to be fair, if he does become the co-main event, that still does many views. Like people will still watch it,
fine.
Of course.
Being co-main,
but to be fair, you can't have him like jerking the curtain, as Chael Sonnen once said, for someone who isn't as popular, if you know what I mean. Like you can't put him against flyweights or something like that. That wouldn't make sense. You have to have him with someone with a big name, someone who definitely would produce they wouldn't put similar numbers to Conor because no one can in that world, but somewhat numbers that can actually compete with that, of course. But
Tony Ferguson would be a good fight.
Well, funny that you mentioned Tony Ferguson. He is actually fighting on the next pay-per-view when it comes to UFC 279. He's taking on the Leech, which is, I'm sorry, I'll get his name now. He took on Hamza Chimaev as well, and he absolutely got butchered, man. It was really bad by him, to be fair. He just got picked up, tossed to one corner, and just got tapped out, which obviously you don't want to see that, but I mean, Hamza looked unreal when it came to it. But that's, like I said, obviously Tony Ferguson's a guy who we all look up to one way or another. He's a weirdo, but in a good way, of course. I love him too. Who doesn't love Tony Ferguson, man? Like I said, when it comes to, tapping out, that's not his gang. Not gang, what the fuck? That's not his game, to be fair. He loves to just hold his arm out like this and break it whenever he's in an arm bar or something like that. When you look upon the career of Tony Ferguson, right, obviously he has not won a world title. Do you consider him to be the best fighter ever to not win a world title in the UFC? Because there's many of them, but do you think he would be up there?
I put Dustin Poirier up there before I put him there.
Ooh.
2 seconds.
Mr. Quitter. But it is a good question. What about you, Velv? Where would you put Tony Ferguson as part of that group?
I'll be real, I just came back from the toilet. I didn't know what he was talking about. I don't know.
Never goes there. Right, so Tony Ferguson, you know who Tony El Kukui.
Who, Tommy Ferguson?
Tony Ferguson, yes. The Tony Ferguson. El Kukui.
Yeah. So, what
So when it comes to fighters who have not won, the strap, the championship belt, like the proper one, obviously he was an interim champion. When it comes to it, is he the best ever to do it? Because obviously Matt says that Dustin Poirier was better than him. I don't know about that because, Dustin's had a shot, you know what I mean? So that is what it is. So, yeah.
So if he's the greatest to not win.
Yeah, exactly that.
Pretty up there, to be honest. He's up there. I can't think of anyone else, to be honest. I think there's people closer, but I feel like him, the way he fights is very good. And I feel like very unique in his own way.
No, that's definitely a compliment for him, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Max Holloway hasn't
I can't think of anyone. If you can two fighters,
he lost to Volkanovski. That's how he lost the title.
Oh wait, yeah.
Even like two fighters that maybe you can have an argument, but in my head I can't think of anyone.
That's fine. Obviously, when it comes to me, obviously I've watched MMA for a long time, and I know, like I said, I could name Chael Sonnen, which was a good one as well. Jacare Souza is another one, to be fair. Alexander Gustafsson, back when he was in his prime, he was a really good fighter back then. You could talk about Derek Lewis. You could talk about who else was there? Uriah Faber as well. Like I said, there's many of them, obviously, but it's obviously a question we might come back to next week. So look, we're going to end it here, lads. We're going to go through our predictions, and then we're going to essentially just shout out our socials. So, Matt, this weekend, Gane versus Tuivasa. Who wins it?
Gane. But there's also Andy Ruiz versus Ortiz, and I think Andy Ruiz wins that.
I was going to go on to that. Yeah, we're just going to. So Andy Ruiz, sound. About Marvin Vettori and Whittaker, who are you going for that one?
Whittaker.
Perfect. Okay. And yeah, I guess that's really it. To be fair, there's no other fights really until next weekend. To be fair, where there's UFC 279, I believe. So that's going to be very interesting. We'll make sure we get onto that for next week. Velv, your predictions.
I have to head now, but I'll speak.
Don't worry. Yeah. I'll make sure you promote you. Don't worry. I'll put your promotion in. All right. Good luck. Adios. All right. Velv, your predictions.
Tuivasa for the fight, and Whittaker for the co-main. Whittaker will win. When it comes to Ruiz versus Ortiz, I think it'll be a draw.
Okay, that's a good one, to be fair. For me, I'm going with Tuivasa knockout. I think he's going to absolutely blow up after this fight. We're going to say Robert Whittaker to win by decision, but like I said, he'd probably get close to finishing. And then Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz. I'm going Andy Ruiz. All right, guys. So like I said, those are our predictions for this week. Obviously, we will talk about UFC 279, break it all down. So yeah, it's going to be a good card, lads. So
whoever wins the fight gets to fight Deji. Whoever wins the fight gets to fight Deji.
For which fight?
Whoever wins between Ruiz versus Ortiz has the right to fight Deji. That's a performance.
I don't know about that, but anyway. All right, boys. So, Vel, where can they find you, lad?
Twitter, Instagram at Vel_skills.
That's perfect. You can find Matt at MJWS6921 on Twitter. You don't know why it's so awkward, but anyway. You can also find me on all social media platforms at Robotic Jaguar. That's been us, guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend, lads. Enjoy the fight in Paris. Also the boxing.